Well, I'm going to try to do a video this morning while I'm walking. This is something different, but we'll see how it goes. It might be a little clumsy and choppy, but we'll see. Like right now, I have to bend down to pick up my walking sticks. So we'll use this as another update. However, most of it might be just talking to myself, so to capture some of these thoughts when I get back home. It's kind of nerdy stuff, but if you want to stick with it and watch it, that's fine. So one of the first things I want to tell you about is yesterday I'm walking along, and you know, there's not a lot of people on the trail, but there are some, and most of them don't speak English. So they walk by, and there are two ways we greet each other. Of course, one of the classic ways is Buen Camino, and a lot of people say Buen Camino. But many of us just say hola. And so I'm walking along, and this woman, she's walking with a guy, and they walk by, and they say hola, and I say hola. And she turns around, and she looks at me, and she says, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Texas." And she said, "I knew it." I said, "How did you know that?" I said, "One word with 3 letters, and you identified a Texas accent?" She said, "Oh yeah, it's there." And then we got to chatting, and then she said, "Where in Texas are you from?" I said, "San Antonio." And then she said, "Oh, right." Well, it turned out she's from Burbank, California, and her son and daughter-in-law live in San Antonio, and she has 2 Labradors, and she drove all the way from Burbank with those 2 dogs to leave them with her son and daughter-in-law while she went on this journey. And then she's going back to San Antonio to pick up the dogs and drive back to Burbank. So we exchanged numbers, and she said when she gets back, we'll look each other up and we'll go out and have dinner. But now, isn't that amazing? Here we are, thousands of miles from nowhere, and we run into something like that. So, you know, one of the things I've been asking myself about this journey, it pops up from time to time. Why am I doing this? I mean, with today's technology, I could fly straight to Santiago de Compostela. Why am I walking 200 miles? And so that's a very philosophical question. So I'm learning a lot of things about myself. You know, at first I said, I wish I had a better hiking partner because the partner is me, and I'm not so sure I find all this interesting. But I am learning to get better acquainted with my hiking partner. It's kind of like, you know, a lot of us with our loved ones or people like that, we say, I want to spend more time with them. And so we block out time to spend time with them. And sometimes we spend that time wisely, sometimes we don't. But often we use that time to really have deeper conversations and more meaningful conversations and get to know that person better. And that time is very rewarding. So I've come to think that maybe that's what I'm doing here, is maybe I needed to spend time with myself. Even though at first I thought I wish I had a better partner who was more interesting. But I've come to think maybe I was wrong about that. So A lot of things that are popping up. And this is kind of nerdy stuff, so you might want to not be interested in sticking with this, but like I say, I'm talking to myself. There's 4 questions that have been on my mind for a long, long time, but I've never had the time to really dig in, or I've never taken the time to really dig into them. And the first of those 4 questions is, who am I? So that question has been with me for several days, and I've been pondering it. And one of the things I've come to realize that I'm a right-brain person. I've always thought I was a left-brain person. I'm data-driven. I'm all about numbers, facts, and precision. And that has not served me very well. But I thought that's who I was. But I've come to realize, especially on this trip, that I'm a right-brain person. I'm more driven to mystery and beauty and things that can't be reduced to data. Now, for example, just about half an hour ago, we walked past this beautiful old church, and they have these mausoleums around these churches, which are quite elaborate. And we went through the gate, and there were 3 other people who didn't speak English. They were speaking Spanish. They were there looking at it, like me. And then I noticed they stopped, and they made the sign of the cross, and in unison, they recited what was obviously a prayer because it was memorized, and they were all saying it in unison. Now, there was a time when I would never have ridiculed anything like that, but I wouldn't have understood it. And I probably would have dismissed it at that point and say, well, I have no idea what that's about. Well, that's my problem, but it's not that way now. Now I want to understand it. I wish we could have communicated with each other, because I would have asked them to tell me about that. So maybe that's one of the things I'll do when I get home. So that's a heavy question, and it doesn't have easy answers, but I'm starting to get a little bit better acquainted with myself, I think. Nibbling around the edges of that answer. Well, who am I anyway? And this is the only hiking partner I have. Let's make the best of it. And it's going pretty well. The second question is, why am I here? Another heavy, heavy question. What's my purpose? I'm 83 years old. In a lot of ways, I'm living on borrowed time, because statistically, I have outlived my welcome. And, at any age, we could go at any moment, but at 83, you just never know. And so, why have I occupied this space on Earth? And once I do leave it, is it going to close up like a pebble dropped in the water, and nobody will ever know I was here? I don't know. But I do spend a lot of time these days thinking about purpose and meaning. And in my work, in my nonprofit, that's what I'm trying to help other people do. And it's an important question, because I think I have some of that right now. I think that's one of the things that's kept me alive this long. It's not just I've taken care of myself. It's not just a physical thing. I believe it's because I'm a curious person. I'm a learner, and never stop learning. And I for some reason, and I'm grateful for it, I'm not going to sit in a rocking chair and yell at the kids to get off the front yard every day. I'm not going to watch Jeopardy all day long on television. But so that's one of the questions that I'm pondering. Why am I here? What is my purpose? How can I use what gifts I have in the service of other people? not easy questions. The third question has to do with values, and that's almost a cliche because all of the self-development programs that we go through have that as an exercise, the values exercise. They give you a list of values and say, list those, and what you end up doing is picking other people's values and say, well, yeah, that one fits me, I'll take that one. But I think the important question on this is, what really matters to me? Not to you, not to my company, but what's truly important? It's not easy. So I spent some time thinking about that. And then finally, when you get those three questions pretty close, the last one takes care of itself. What is non-negotiable in my life? You look back on your life and you realize, wow, a lot of my life I've spent doing what other people wanted me to do, trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be. And frankly, that hasn't worked out too well. So I'm working on those questions, and it's making the day go by a little bit easier. Okay, I'm just gonna, you can see, I saw a sign on the trail a couple of days ago. It said, the only time to look back is to see how far you've come. Right? So I'm just taking a look back at this particular trail. Actually, this is an easy day today. This is a 12-mile day. I'm on my way to Malede, and if I'm fortunate, I'll get there mid-afternoon. And they say there's some good places to eat, and I'm gonna have pulpo, octopus. Yeah, octopus. I had some a couple of nights ago in one little town, and it was really good. It was when you look at it though, they brought out this plate and had all these little tentacles on it with these little suckers, and say, okay, well, I'll just take a bite and see what it's like. It was pretty good. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. Hope I didn't bore you with my nerdy stuff. So I've got about 3 or 4 more hours to go. And once again, we get up in the morning and I don't have anything to do today. Oh, one of the things I did want to talk about is, and this is something different. I have come to realize that I'm more addicted to the internet than I thought I was. And I've come to realize that I'm more addicted to YouTube than I thought I was. Because you get out here and there's not much connectivity. And so there are many, many times there's nothing except me and my hiking partner, me. And boy, I'm thinking, this really sucks, you know. I want to go and get my phone out and start scrolling through YouTube. And then I've also realized that when I'm doing that, I'm fooling myself into thinking that I'm actually educating myself. Wow. And watching all these political videos, and I forget that the algorithm is feeding me videos that fit my way of viewing the world. And in some cases, it's feeding my outrage. And at first, it was difficult to not be connected to that, and even to my email. You know, well, I got to check my email, and so you're just out here with nothing but yourself, and you either do something with it or you don't. For a lot of us, that's just terrifying to find ourselves with nothing except yourself. but it's a very therapeutic thing. All right, so I'm going to continue to walk. Thanks for watching this long. Talk to you later.